everybody. Welcome back to Dragons on the Wall, IGN's Game of Thrones show. We're not your usual hosts. This is Jim and Joshua.
Hey guys.
We're your guides for this
Yes.
week. Erica's out and Rotha's out, so you're stuck with us. So let's
Sorry.
let's talk about the most recent episode, The Gift. A lot happened this episode, and I'm with our reviewer, Matt Fowler, when he said that he thought this was the best episode of the season.
Yeah,
so
and
far.
full spoiler warning. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Well, why would you watch this if you hadn't? I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, we're going to get into real spoilerish, full spoilers ahead, so you've been forewarned. Joshua, let's just kind of dive right in and talk about the overall episode. Your thoughts on it. Did you like it?
I thought it was pretty good. Certainly better than, like a lot of season 5 has been not so great, so it's been better than a lot of the other episodes. I feel like just a lot happened and it flowed really well. I thought it was we got some meaningful steps forward in a lot of storylines, like Dany's met Tyrion, which was crazy.
Finally, that big fan moment.
Yes, and Cersei finally kind of got what was coming to her.
She certainly did.
No one defies the sparrows. I wasn't wild about the Dorne stuff again, but that's sort of
me too.
How we've been feeling the whole season about that. And we got a ton of time up in the north of just sort of like what's going on there, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the many things that I really loved about this episode is that it did finally give a bit more momentum to some of these storylines. I felt like a little bit like they've been spinning their wheels a bit in certain parts of this season. I've liked this season, but this was definitely my favorite episode so far. I love that essentially we saw Littlefinger yet again doing what he does best, which is playing people off of each other or making that quick alliance if he has to, and essentially using the same method to get Cersei locked up as what he did for Cersei to get Marjorie and her brother locked up.
Yes.
And then also just the way that we've now seen the Daenerys storyline start to play out. Well, I love that. I love the line that Dario says to her about all rulers are either butchers or meat.
Yeah, that was a good one. That could be on a poster.
Yeah.
It's going to be an inspirational poster.
Exactly, yeah.
That's cool for kings.
I also, one of the other things I really liked was how you did get to see sort of the weird relationship between Tyrion and Jorah, and the fact that, look, Tyrion is trying to hack off the chain, and then the guy just cuts him loose because he thinks he wants to go fight. But I think he realizes Jorah is the only thing still keeping him alive at this point.
No, yeah. He didn't really know what was going on outside, right?
Yeah.
But he came out when he saw the queen. He was like, oh my gosh. Why was Tyrion the only one chained up? Like literally everyone else just ran out there.
Maybe they knew he was the most dangerous one because you got to see him kick the guy's ass on the stage. That was pretty great.
Impressive.
Seeing Dinklage just take a dude out like that.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. That was pretty cool.
What about were there any other elements of this week's episode that you thought worked, didn't work?
I really liked the scene with Stannis. When Melisandre again was like working her like way on him, and he's done so many bad things. He's killed his brother, he's given up his gods, he's set people on fire, all for her. But she's like, hey, your daughter has that king's blood, and he's like, no, that's where he drew the line for a man who had no line before. I thought that was a great sort of moment for him.
And that was a great payoff too to a previous episode where he had that moment with the daughter. And we've not seen, that's one of the more humanizing things about his character is that he does have this soft spot for his daughter. And so it was nice to see that kind of payoff this week. Any other things that really worked for you or that you had kind of an issue with?
Let's see. Well, I suppose the big topic is the Sansa material of just where are they going with that. I kind of felt her section was super predictable because she just very plainly was like, oh, Theon, like, here, take this candle, go and save me, because we knew that she had a person who said, the North remembers, we'll come and help you if you light this candle in the tower window. And that happens, and then I kind of saw that coming, that Ramsay was going to figure it out, and is going to kill the woman and everything. Like, so I thought that wasn't very like a tense situation for me. I wasn't surprised by any of that.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk a little bit more later in the show about in depth about the Sansa situation and the way it kind of just developing off of what happened at the end of last week's episode. Ramsay Bolton, though, I gotta say, this guy has definitely started to out Joffrey.
You think so?
In a lot. I really do. I think he's just even more despicable. I didn't think they could ever get a villain as despicable, if not more, than Joffrey. But boy, I really feel like they have.
Joffrey more, just because he was so just annoying and had just so much power. No one could really tell him no.
I think that was part of it too. Is
Yeah.
that you still know at the end of the day, Ramsay's dad can yank the chain on him a bit.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
No, there was no chain on Joffrey, and so he was like a little more unpredictable and a little more wild.
Yeah. What did you think about the stuff up north? I mean, we got to see Sam as a man now.
Sam the man.
Sam the man. What did you think of? Because there was a minute there where there was a pit in my stomach. I'm like, we're not going to have another rape on the show. I hope to God not.
I was like, why are they going there? Like, is that the only way to put a woman in danger is to have her under the threat of rape? And then it's sort of weird. It reminded me of James Bond, where you had remember that woman in, what was the last movie called?
The Skyfall?
Skyfall. In Skyfall, he rescued like a woman who was like, wasn't she like a sex slave?
Oh, yeah.
And then they went and had sex. And it's like he rescued Gilly from a rape just to have sex with her, and it sort of felt like weird for that to happen,
but
even though they had a
known each other
romance,
for a long
obviously.
time.
Yeah, but just again, it's a weird like, oh, let me save you from a sexual attack by having sex with you. It was just.
But it was also they also had a they sort of I did like that they found a bit of the humor in that moment between her and Sam, where it's like, does it hurt? Or I'm not hurting you, or whatever. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But also we got to see Ghost again. That was pretty cool. You know?
I'm missing the direwolves. Like in the beginning, remember there was like, oh, everyone gets a direwolf when they grew up into be these like monsters, and they were almost characters in themselves, and they were big players in what was happening. And now they're just like, where are they? I don't know. You see ghosts like maybe once or twice a season.
Yeah, I love how he just happens to be wandering the hall, so it was kind of a convenient rescue, but it was great to see him again. Which also makes me wonder about Sir Pounce. Come on, man, where's Sir Pounce? Tommen, he needs a buddy right now in the worst way, especially maybe next week he'll finally, Sir Pounce will come back, because now his mom, his wife, everyone he loves is locked up. You know?
He needs something to console him while Marjorie is away in
Sir
prison.
Pounce will end up on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
That's why he's just biding his time.
Yes.
What did you think of the way that Cersei essentially played Tommen yet again, oh, honey, the world is rough, and just sort of like, she tells him all the things he wants to hear, or in some cases he needs to hear, yet exonerating herself from any wrongdoing, of course, in it,
I don't know. Their relationship is very like weird. I feel like she couldn't tell Joffrey really what to do. Like she tried, but now she really has Tommen in the palm of her hand. Yeah. And Tommen you could really tell he's a very like soft boy.
Oh, he's a mama's boy.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy, and he has no spine. He's very meek. He
Although
really...
he had a hint of a little grit to him this week, where he said something along the lines of like, I will go to war over her. Like he really loves her, and just the look in her face where she realized, oh, it's not just about the sex for him. It's like
right. Well, I think it is the sex, really, because
when you're a 15-year-old boy
and you have Marjorie,
But yeah, I almost look at their relationship as like the young teacher who has sex with her students. That's kind of what the vibe I get from those two.
Oh, wow.
Marjorie and Tom. Yes, we went there. But anyways, there's a lot that happened this week, but overall, the biggest moment in the show for you, which one was it?
Tyrion meeting Daenerys.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Cersei getting thrown in the
I thought so. We can debate about this later if you want.
I think we will, actually. I think for me, it was knowing that Cersei now has pretty much run out of cards to play. I think because in my mind I feel like Daenerys and Tyrion have kind of known each other, even though they haven't. I feel like that moment was to me, I don't want to say underwhelming, but it was certainly like, it was great and it was good to see them. But this one, I really felt like, okay, now the stakes felt even higher.
That's fair.
But we want to know what you guys think of this episode, things that you liked, things that you didn't like. Let us know in the comments below. And of course, All Things Game of Thrones. Keep it here on IGN. Now let's dig a little deeper into the gift. A lot of gifting this week.
Yeah.
Everybody got a gift, I felt like, Jon Snow's finally set out to spend, try and strike a deal with the wildlings. But meanwhile, Aemon Targaryen passes on.
Yeah, poor guy.
And
he was a great character.
He was a great character, and I started wondering, like, when you're an elderly actor and you're playing your dead self, does that creep you out? Or you're just like, well, I guess I'm ready. What if you drop dead during the middle of the scene?
It's a little too close to reality, right?
Yeah, it's a little much, I think. But it
was also nice to see someone get just a nice, quiet death.
Yes,
instead of
non-violent death.
Yes, a non-violent death, and he was just remembering his brother Aegon Targaryen, Egg, and he had that nice final long line of Egg, I dreamed I was old, and just being taken back. Yeah. And I thought that was a nice, really nice, warm send-off.
Yeah, it was a poignant moment in an otherwise pretty brutal show.
Yes.
But Sam now has no friends left up there, and in fact, that jerk has to point it out to him too, all your friends are gone. Jon is gone, Targaryen is now gone, and Sam has to man up this week. What did you think of Sam and the resolution of that scene? We did talk a little bit earlier about the arrival of Ghost, but did it feel almost too manufactured a bully moment to you of I can take my beating, let's go again. At that point, there was no way he could.
Right. It was a very Sam scene, right? Yeah. Of we know he has a lot of heart, but not a lot to back it up. Yeah. And it wouldn't have felt right if he had somehow fought them and taken them out. And he did try and swing the sword, which is something,
And for a character who in the past has been, kind of crippled by fear, it was great to see him for a woman he loves, he'll do anything.
Yeah, it took Gilly for him to sort of get a spine. And even though it didn't really work out for him, good thing he had Ghost. So it was good for him.
Yeah, and then Gilly, what did you think of her decision this week to deflower Sam the Man?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I feel like he broke.
Was that within character for her, you think, or?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like their romance has been going for a long time, so it was inevitable, even though it's against his vow to do that. But since when have any of these guys stuck by anything?
This is I don't know why they're taking a vow of chastity at this point. They're all getting some. And then there wasn't really much of Jon this week. It was really more about he was mentioned a lot though. Just the fact that Sansa found out from Ramsay that where Jon is now, and I think it's easy for viewers to forget that a lot of the characters just simply don't have status updates of what's going on in the life of another character.
Yeah, they have ravens, I guess, but wouldn't they be lost in the snowstorm? I don't know.
Yeah, I got a question actually about the whole winter is coming snowstorm thing. I haven't read the books, so
but I have.
Forgive my ignorance if I ask a question that fans of the books might think is stupid. But winter is coming. Is it going to hit Daenerys' part of the world? Because it still looks like really nice beach weather there. I'm just thinking nobody seems like they're...
She's on the other side of the world.
So winter's not really coming?
I think I imagine it eventually will, but no, it's not there yet.
Yeah, because I don't see anybody stocking up on rock salt, anything you got to do to deal with the snow.
They're in the south. They're in think of them in I don't know, the Philippines, or in Hawaii or something. Okay. And everyone else is in up in New York.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's talk a little bit more in depth about the Daenerys and Tyrion scene.
Yeah. I mean, these are the two characters a lot of people watch Game of Thrones for.
Yeah,
they've been on the opposite side of the world for a long time.
7 years now, right? Yes. No, 6 seasons now.
Yeah,
so,
this is the 5th season. This is the 5th season.
It's all one
numbers,
long,
not what we're here
blur.
for. But no, yeah. So they finally met. They've been on this collision course. Almost thought it was a little too easy, right, for them to finally meet, and because normally usually at the last second something goes wrong, somebody gets murdered.
I was really expecting they're going to drag this out another week.
When something is going right for a character, that's how you always know things are about to get really bad for them. Like Cersei, who was so arrogantly walking down into the prison, taunting Marjorie, and then talking to the High Sparrow. But she had another thing coming, didn't she?
Oh, yeah.
But no, as far as I feel like, and Matt said this in his review, that I feel like it should have ended on Daenerys and Tyrion meeting for the first time, like, my name is Tyrion Lannister, cut to black.
See, I'm of a different opinion on how the episode ended. I like the way it did because I felt like for me, it would have been a weird note to. I think ending on the note of a character in peril is always a more effective thing than a note of like, hey bud, we're here, or nice to meet you, or something like that. I feel like it left a lot more questions to be answered, like what's going to happen to Cersei, what does this mean for Tommen, what is it, whereas with Daenerys and Tyrion, it's ultimately, in some ways, for right now, it seems like it's going to be more about what is Daenerys and what are Dany and Jorah basically, like how's that going to play out? Because he's got a stone man thing growing,
Poor guy.
Yeah, kind of that open sore. And then so he's probably, he's probably not long for the show, I would imagine. I don't know, I mean, it's that, or he's going to be, what is he going to turn into, a zombie and just stagger around? Like,
probably, looking like a statue. Maybe let's chop it.
Ooh, yeah.
Poor guy. But no, see, I feel like, it's just, it's so big. It's more than just the two characters like saying hello. It's the two storylines have been so separate. Just for the whole time, we've been wondering, when is what Daenerys has been up to all this time finally going to connect to what's going on in Westeros? And that is like the two stories finally crossing over.
And it is the poster for the show this season. Is
yes, and him
Tyrion
seeing
and
the dragon. Yeah. So it's like there's so much like power to their meeting. They could have done some epic music and played it off. It'd been great.
It was surprisingly understated, actually. In a lot of ways. Maybe it's going to be more about next week's episode. It's also, wasn't this the first major kind of character interaction that hasn't been in the books?
Yes. So obviously we don't want to spoil anything from the books, but just suffice to say, this has not happened in the books yet. They've not met yet, which is crazy. Having read the books, I was like, oh my gosh, experiencing that for the first time.
So this is the first time the show has really kind of, between that, I guess, and the getting a look at where the White Walkers basically, their lair and the thing with the baby and all that. Like, those seem to be the two big things that the books have yet to kind of explore. Do you think this is, from this episode on, it's basically, you might as well kind of forget what you know from the books? Or, I don't know, I'm just speculating.
Yeah, some things have not yet happened in the books, obviously, but I think that now is the time where it's, the book people could be sort of arrogant and be like, oh, well, I know what's coming. Not anymore. Like, now everything is sort of a surprise. And they're merging, they gave Sansa a new story that's not in the book. So everything that happens there is like kind of news to me, news to book readers. So yeah, it's a fun time to be a Game of Thrones fan, whether you've read the books or not.
Well, you did bring up Sansa, and obviously, last week's episode ended with a horrifying scene that was very controversial. Ramsay raping her. And there was obviously gigantic fallout against the show about that. How did you think they handled the follow-up to that this week? Because there was a kind of a minor time jump of just, it seemed like a week maybe, right? How did you think the follow-up was
It's
handled?
hard to judge it, right? Because the initial reaction wasn't so much that, well, it was that she got raped, but it was that, she was one of 3 characters in the book who were not raped, and then they were raped in the show, and it just leaves this like bad taste in your mouth to why they're doing this. Like, was the story not good enough? Like, these amazing novels written by George R.R. Martin that made this hit show, is that not good enough that you can't follow it? Of course, in adaptation to the screen, things need to change. But it just, so that's what felt weird. And obviously you can't judge it without having seen the rest of the season, right? And know where they're going with it. This could be actually an amazing thing for her. We could give them, the showmakers the benefit of the doubt, and that they, aren't going to do some like cliched trope like this will empower Sansa to save herself, or this will give Theon motivation to rescue her. So if they don't go either of those routes, I'm happy.
They did. There was that moment in this week's episode where I was like, oh God, did they really use that as the device for Theon's redemption?
Yeah,
I feel like Theon is beyond redemption at this point.
He is a broken man.
He is just a shell, and I think we can stop expecting him to rise to the occasion. And I think Sansa, for her, it was just yet one more betrayal, and even when she reminded him, like, you betrayed your own family, and she tried to appeal to the Greyjoy part of him, of like, you're the last son of, and it's nothing will get through to this guy. Do you agree? Do you think he is beyond any sort of coming back at this point?
Yeah. So the question is sort of, does he have the willpower to overcome what's happened to him and like stand up for what's right and redeem himself? See, I don't know. I feel like he's one character, in a strange way, sort of got what he deserved in a way, because he did cruel and unusual things, and he got cruel and unusual punishment for it.
Yeah.
Which is, debatable, of course, if you got too much.
You don't want this guy on your jury.
Yeah. But, like Joffrey, people wanted to see what happened to Theon happened to Joffrey for doing these horrible things. And now, but this is what you have when you get something like that. You kind of, the audience wants bad things to happen to the bad people, like they want them to suffer and then die. But but this is what you get, and you're getting a character who's completely broken and who gets completely just subservient to Ramsay, who's now the most like foul character on the show. So I don't know if he can ever come back. He's just mentally broken. He thinks even the most clear sign of like redemption, he thinks is a trick.
Yeah, no, he cannot believe anything anyone says, except he just knows that if he doesn't do something, Ramsay is going to hurt him. Speaking of which, geez, the poor old lady, her one chance, just put a candle in the window. Yeah, that sounded too good to be true, and it was.
But there's like Brienne waiting off in the distance, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Like,
I think she was waiting to make her move, right? But what is she waiting for? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just ride into town or not. I mean, I think
it's just her and Pod, or at least she's teamed up with the other people of Winterfell, and she was, I think, waiting for the candle. I guess she knew about the signal, but I just don't know how she would like go about that rescue. And of course, Stannis is marching down through the snow to fight them in the first place.
And they're also, I mean, Stannis too, and Davos. They have their work cut out for them, because they're losing men, they're losing horses, the weather is against them. He's not willing to go along with the Red Witch's King's Blood little sacrifice. Do you think, basically, is Stannis, is he going to pull off his coup? He's going to get to Winterfell, and it's just going to be the kid there, and the kid, Tom will probably be like, hey man, you can have it, I just want my wife back. Like I think at this point it could be surprising if he gets all the way to Winterfell expecting a fight, and instead it's like, well, why don't we team up and get rid of the Sparrows, because you're going to take over a city that you can't rule.
Well, Winterfell's up north, and the Westeros, King's Landing is super far down south.
I just got schooled, Well, no, he's going to go King's Landing, and then he's going to end up in Westeros. The
Boltons are on the side of
he's going to take out the Boltons. Then he's going to get down to
King's Landing.
King's Landing and take over there. Is he? Do you think he's going to pull it off, or is he going to get all the way to Roose Bolton's?
I feel like I don't know what's going to happen, and even having read the books, I don't know what's going to happen. Just clarify this. But I guess my theory is that Stannis will be victorious, and he will then take his army to go down south, but Littlefinger will meet him. He will and then team up with him, and then somehow Littlefinger will take over the Iron Throne, and then Jon and Tyrion and Dany, like everyone's three favorite characters, will show up and somehow fight him and beat him, and then peace will reign throughout the land.
I have a different theory. I think Daenerys is going to end up being like the Anakin Skywalker kind of villain of this piece.
Oh, really?
And that she's going to end up being the one that they're going to have to team up and stop, and that I'm beginning to suspect, what if it ends up with Stannis and Sansa as the king and queen, and either Brienne or Arya as the hand of the king, the hand of the king.
Brienne is the queen?
No, Brienne is the hand.
As the hand? Ooh, that
Brienne
would be good.
or Arya,
Oh, that'd be even better. Oh my gosh, she can be the
that's
king.
Why I really don't think Daenerys is ending up on that throne. I think she's going to go. She's already got the whole butchers and meat thing going on. So I think at a certain point she's going to end up just Breaking Bad, not to mix up our hit TV shows.
Interesting. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's a good theory. I might like it a little bit more than my own now that I've heard it.
Because I feel like at a certain point, if you're going to have the character with dragons, I think you're going to end up seeing the heroes of the show have to go up against a villain, especially after you have gone up against White Walkers. you need to take on that one last giant challenge, and I think that's going to be dragons. So
You have to fight evil dragons.
yeah, I mean, or it'll be
But
a
how does
tragic thing.
Littlefinger play into all of it? Because I feel he's the one who sort of set the storyline of Game of Thrones in motion. Like he was responsible for the events that led to Ned Stark's death. He killed Jon Arryn, and then he was responsible for the War of the Five Kings and everything. And now he's again like causing another war to stir up and all these people fighting.
I think he might not live to see the end of that. I think he might live long enough to realize like what he probably already knows, which is, I've set all these things in motion, but I think his punishment is never living long enough to actually get there to it,
Interesting.
Because at a certain point in the story, when it's just going to come down to battle, you don't really need the schemer anymore.
But I think he's gonna have everyone in his pocket by the end. I feel like he will take the Iron Throne, but I don't know if he'll keep it. That's my theory. I don't know.
I don't think Jon Snow is going to end up on the Iron Throne. I think, if anything, the Aemon Targaryen death scene this week, a guy who could have sat on the throne and refused it, the fact that he's been a mentor of Jon Snow. I think everyone is expecting Jon to end up on the throne in the end.
That's a good point.
I think he's gonna be like, I've seen your Game of Thrones and I don't want it. And he's gonna run off with the wildlings. And I hope the last line of the episode is somebody like, well, Jon Snow, I guess you do know something. And they all freeze frame, high five, and that's how it ends. Well, there's really a lot to talk about in this week's episode, but we're kind of out of time. So we want to know in the comments below what you thought of this episode, things that you liked that they did, that they didn't do, all that. Joshua, any final thoughts?
How should they have
on this
ended
week?
it? Yeah.
Yeah. And for all things Game of Thrones, keep it here on IGN.